सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.
You're listening to Bare Knuckle Bhakti Shorties on the Bhakti Recovery Podcast with Jiva G, coming at you every Monday with a little spiritual something. Hello, my friends. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I'm walking by the river, which is roaring. You might be able to hear that in the background. When I'm walking in the woods, I always get so inspired. My mind starts opening up. It's such a beautiful space for me to open myself up to God and the higher part of me, which is only God anyway. And then I do get filled with gratitude and wonder, actually. And I feel so at peace here in these woods. I was really the last few months talked a lot about boundaries, talked a lot about mean what you say what you mean, don't say it mean. And it continues. This is a lifelong process. And finally, at 55 years old, after being 27 years sober and clean and sober, I'm learning deeply, experientially, how to practice a CODA program, uncovering the whole adult-child stuff, which I never wanted to approach. When I first I was just not mature enough when I was getting clean and sober. I wasn't mature enough to be able to approach and deal with those kind of issues. Just wasn't on the table. I was just too busy trying to survive and stay clean and deal with real life. And now at 55, those issues, the ones that I didn't take care of through working a program, through practicing Krishna consciousness, doing my bhakti life and my program life and my service, I'm starting to get bit in the ass by the things that I didn't take care of. And guess what? I forgive myself. Because I know really at the end of the day that I've done everything that I can to keep on keeping on. That's all I can describe it as. Keep on keeping on. And sometimes I'm going to trip and fall. Sometimes I'm going to knock people over. And I'm going to have to make my amends, try to make it right. And sometimes those amends are not accepted. And I have to accept that too. I can't make somebody forgive me. I can't make somebody else understand their part in a situation when they're not even willing to look at their part. That's not my responsibility, and that's not what amends are about. And knowledgeably, intellectually, I always do this. Anyone who works a program knows this. But I've never actually had to really deal with an amends that has been violently rejected. I don't mean like physically violent, but I just mean like really like intensely rejected. But with a complete lack of self-awareness on the other part. I shouldn't be surprised. I shouldn't be, that's the thing. I look at people who are also on a journey of recovery as equals. I always have. But what I am learning is, if I look at my own journey, how was I with a month clean, 2 months clean? where was my head at? And it definitely was probably not mature enough to deal with certain things. And I've got to understand that. I need to understand that when I'm dealing with other recovering people who don't have a lot of time clean, who are still struggling with mental health issues, as I am. But I've had a lot more years of practice to be able to get out of that, have tools to get out of it. So at the end of the day, what I do know is that I work a program. That's the only thing that'll save my ass. I do my steps. I talk with others. I do my service. I pray. And the rest is up to God. And that process I have to let go of. I could do everything. I mean, it's funny. A friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, Chintamani, big up, Chintamani. She's living in my apartment in Mayapur in India. And she called me this morning and said, because there's, okay, if anyone knows about India, so there's, and this is very relevant, believe me, this is not a squirrel, this is relevant. So she said, I've called Bhagirath, who's our carpenter, and I told him to come over and to sand the wood table, which had like rings over it from people not using coasters. And it's been this thing in India where they say, should we oil the wood? And when they do, it turns frickin' bright orange. It's this frickin' Indian bright orange wood. It's hideous. But, so the table was completely sanded down so we can take that bright orange oil off. They oil, it's natural, but it's bright orange. And they took the bright orange oil, they sanded it down, and then they used some sort of coconut oil or another kind of oil, and it still turned orange. So she told me, I did everything I could. I told them not to use that orange oil anymore. And now they used coconut oil and the table is orange again. So it must be the nature of the table to turn orange. So, so there you go. And I told her, I laughed when she said it because I think she was feeling a little bit like, oh, I did everything I can, right? And that's what I'm saying. We do everything we can. We can have the best of intentions. I don't want this table to turn orange, but the nature of that table is turning orange no matter what we do. And I laughed and I told her that. I told her that's like the third step, We give our will and our lives over to the care of God, of Krishna, as we understand him, and the results are up to him. We do the footwork and the results are up to him. So there are going to be a lot of orange table people out there. It's the nature. It's their nature. It's where they're at that moment in time. And I really have to learn. I always assume that people have healthy boundaries. And the thing is, I always assume that people will be agreeable because I'm usually very agreeable and I will have respect for someone else's space, but not everybody is like that. And I'm always surprised. And I see the importance of any situation to go with clear boundaries. I know it's a lot of work and it's annoying, but if you're working with a bunch of people like I do, it's really important to be clear because not everybody can understand what's going on in my head. Actually, thank God for that. I don't want everybody to understand what goes on in my head. I don't even understand what goes on in my head half the time. No, that's not true. Just a good opportunity for a joke. Clarity, strong and compassionate. Clear, clarity, strong and compassionate. So that it doesn't have to get to a point of frustration and then people acting the way they don't want to act. I did that. I acted like I didn't want to act. And, or or actually, no, that's wrong. Let me correct myself. I acted like I wanted to act, but shouldn't have. I shouldn't have, because I know better. Because it's not constructive. It was giving in to my emotions, letting my emotions bully me. And that's what happens. Lack of boundaries with two people coming into one situation, trying to figure something out, having one party who's not really there yet in order to have that mature conversation. It's very difficult. So what I'm trying to say is I don't want to have that anymore. I don't need it. I don't want it. And my first instinct in this was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like that very childish, rebellious teenager, I don't want to deal with this anymore. People are such idiots. I don't want to deal with anyone anymore. Nobody, like that. Going to your room, stomping and slamming the door. But understanding that that's something that's not a mature reaction, correcting that, apologizing for that to myself as well, and saying, okay, how can I do better next time? There we go. How can I do better next time? Owning my part. And I can't own the other people's part. That's what I do. I take on other people's shit. It's not my problem if the other person, and I make it my problem. It's not my problem that the other person won't take responsibility for their part. That's up to them and God and their program and their sponsor. It has nothing to do with me. As long as I keep working on myself to say, okay, I could have handled it better. I didn't. How do I do it next time? Make my apologies, move on. That's it. Anyway, what a nice reflection for myself. It's always very helpful for me to say these things out loud. Because what happens to me is if I don't share and I don't talk to people who empower me, who are my champions, who want to see me succeed, who want to help me. If I'm not talking to people like that, I'm going to isolate and I'm going to say bad things about myself. And I'm going to listen to the people who don't have nice things to say about me. And I start going into that spiral of really negative self-talk. And I don't want to have negative self-talk. I don't want to. I didn't get into recovery and get into Krishna consciousness and love God so that I can talk bad about myself. That's just not what I want. The more I do this, the more I want to empower myself, and I want other people to be empowered. That's what I want. That's my goal. And you know what? If it's not for everyone, my empowerment, or, not everybody is going to like it. Not everyone's going to like what I have to offer, and that's okay. There's a lot of people who do. If you're thinking out there, I don't have anything to offer, that's not true. Every time I go to a meeting, I get something from somebody, and I put that in my toolbox every single time. Just sharing, even if it's a desperate share. All this, what I'm spewing out here, has nothing to do with me. I've learned this in the meetings. I've learned this in scriptures. I've learned this in Bhakti. I've learned this in 12 steps. Just filling my toolbox. And I want everyone else's toolbox to be filled. Now, if it's filled with something from someone else, man, more power to you. I hope you find it. I really do. Anyway, that's the shorty. I am off to Berlin today. It's actually not Monday. I said happy Monday, everybody, because you'll be listening to this on Monday. It's Thursday. And I'm about to get in a car with my son and my partner. And we are going to visit my daughter and grandson in Berlin. And then we're going to the Berlin Ratha Yatra and gonna see some of my Berlin peeps, some Berlin devotees, and I'm looking forward to it. It's been a really long time since I spent time with my family like that, and I really need that. I love my family. I love my son. Anyway, have a great Monday. Actually, have a great weekend, but you're not supposed to know that this is Thursday. All right, guys. Haribo. Love you all. And we'll see you on Thursday. Haribo! Thanks for listening. I hope you liked the Monday Shorties. Don't forget to check out our full-length episodes on Thursdays. If you like what you heard, spread the word. Peace out.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.